Well, good morning, everyone. This is Margie Dean Gray. I'm the Executive Director of the Fort Lewis College Foundation. And we are now back, as you know, in Notes and Notables versus Off the Rim. I did that during the summertime, and now I'm back on my normal Friday mornings at 9 o'clock. And I'm so glad you could join us because we have two very, very special guests this morning. Two good friends of mine that become good friends of mine through the years because they have just done wonderful, wonderful things for our Native American students here at Fort Lewis. So I'm going to introduce Jeanne Hooper first. Jeanne, you want to just say hi and tell a little bit about yourself?
Sure, be happy to. I live in Ridgway, Colorado. I attended initially Arizona State University, where I worked for a number of years before moving to Northern Arizona University in Flagstaff. And I worked in the university budget office there, went to the comptroller's office, and then finished the remainder of my career as assistant to the vice president for academic affairs, managing the budget for the academic side. And then retired in 1999 and moved to Ridgway.
That is great. Well, we're going to find out why you moved to Ridgway in just a couple minutes. So, Henry Hooper, how about you?
Well, my connection to get here really probably started when I came west in 1981 to work at Northern Arizona University. Prior to that, I'd been at the University of Maine and Wayne State and Brown University as a career as a professor and as an administrator. Mm-hmm. So I went to NAU as their graduate dean and in charge of research. And then over 18 years, I spent some time, 3 years, as the academic vice president, and also then ended up my career running the Science and Math Learning Center and the Bilby Research Center for a year before we retired and moved to Colorado.
So you all obviously know the college system inside and outside, which makes it your connection with Fort Lewis even more important because you understand how it works and needs to work, and that's why I think you all have stepped in. So I haven't mentioned to the audience why you're here in particular, but you all are two members of the board of directors of the John and Sophie Ottens Foundation. And, you know, a lot of people interiorly here at Fort Lewis know who you are because you're two of our favorite people, but also because of what the Ottens Foundation has done. But others listening don't know exactly what the Ottens Foundation is all about. So can you give us a little kind of background, what it is, how you got started in it, and how you ended up on the board? And I'm going to let both of you talk.
Go ahead, Henry.
We'll let Henry start.
Well, I'll say the mission. That's probably the best way to start, is the mission of the foundation in a brief form is to serve Native Americans in the Four Corner States in the areas of health and health education. The foundation actually was started, I guess the first before the foundation got started, John and Sophie supported some graduate students at NAU, and that's how I ran into them. And then the foundation really started its work in 1999, 2000, when I had retired. And so I had agreed to help out with the foundation. And originally, John Ottens was going to manage his money that he was going to put into the foundation. And then the two other board members who live in New York City, Stephen Aronoff was their CPA, did their taxes from their business, and so had known the Ottens much longer than I had, because they moved. The Ottens had moved from New York City to Sedona.
Oh, I was wondering how they got to the West.
Yeah, and it was mainly for her health, for the dry climate. And he had just walked into my office at one point, the two of them, and said, "We want to support Native American graduate students." And it went on from there.
Well, and they initially had a special interest personally visiting archaeological sites around the world.
Oh, my goodness.
And they then translated their interest to something more local, which were the Native Americans in our area.
Well, I was kind of curious as to how they became connected with the Native Americans, because I knew they were from New York. And did they like come out here for vacations? And how did they find these particular students you were talking about?
Well, they came to me and said, we don't want to support, we don't really know what area or whatever. And the first student actually was somebody in political science, a Navajo gal that wanted to be a lawyer. And then, odd the way some things happen, John was taking a course on the geology of the Verde Valley, and his instructor was a student that had been a master's, got a master's degree in geology from NAU. And through discussions over coffee, he said, there's never been a Native American student to get a master's degree in geology at NAU, so why don't you support a geology student? So he came to me and said, that sounds like a good idea, and we put the word out, and lo and behold, we found two students that were working on the reservation who wanted their master's degree in geology so they could take more prominent place in the industry. And so they supported those two. And then it was later that they moved. This was prior to the foundation form. It was later that they moved to just doing the health and health education.
And why did they go to those two particular subjects, do you think?
Well, I think that in part because of Sophie's asthma, and John was pre-diabetic. And so they had a couple of health issues of their own that they, were involved with.
Well, and they also had become more familiar over the years with Native communities. And we had gone out on the reservation with them, and they met people. And so they began to learn that obviously things like diabetes were, major issues, drug and alcohol problems. I mean, so Steve Aronoff and I sat down with John, and we came up with this idea of health and health education, and decided to limit it to the Four Corners just because of the magnitude.
Too vast, yeah. And what about the students that actually went, that Sophie and John supported, these two Native students you were talking about? Do you know where they went on
yes.
to? Or what? Oh, good.
Yeah,
Tell us the story.
One of them, well, they're both still on Navajo. One works for the Navajo, I don't know, it's oil and gas, but it's a division of utility division of the Navajo Nation, where they interface with the oil and gas companies. The other is a woman, and she had been involved in the first reclamation of a uranium mine near Tuba City, and so she actually started her own company doing reclamation.
It's amazing, really.
Yeah, I mean, so they took leadership roles, which they felt they needed the master's degree for, which is probably true. So it worked out.
Well, I was trying to think of how many young people that the Ottens probably have supported through the years in the foundation while they were alive, and then now through the foundation. And I know at Fort Lewis alone, we're going to get into that in just a few minutes, but hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of students have been affected by the generosity of the foundation. So can you give me just sort of a ballpark? Have you ever thought about how many people you all have touched?
Well, it is literally hundreds, and we were thinking about that, and there's the direct thing. Well, I'll give you an example why it makes it difficult. One of the programs has been a master's degree program run on the reservation for school counselors, and they were cohorts of 25. So there's been now about 125 people who have gone through the program and then become licensed school counselors, and most all of them are in reservation schools as the school counselor. So you touch, let's say, 125 people, but they're in schools, doing their thing. And one of our programs on Hopi, the dental hygiene students, who mostly are not native, from NAU, go out and clean teeth. They go out and spend a week at a time, let's say, and they clean teeth at the health center. And so they're touching, many of them are young kids. Mama brings in the children for their first teeth cleaning, and many of these kids have never had, seen a dentist.
Right.
Because most of the dental work at the IHS is, pulling teeth or,
Right.
real
It's too,
problems.
almost too late at that point. Right. Exactly.
Well, and healthy eating is another issue. There are a number of people that have been trained to show people how to choose more wisely when they shop in a grocery store for healthier food, or to grow their own foods again, naturally, and then they take these ideas home to their families
And schools.
and schools, yes, and
many of these schools now have gardens
Oh,
Right.
that's wonderful.
that they're maintaining, and the kids do all the work in them. And
so it's just exponentially. You don't
So,
even know
now
how
we're,
many.
we're maybe up to millions at this point. Just goes on. And
gonna
that
say
is,
thousands.
really, when you think about that, you just start with a few, and now look how far those fingers have reached out. I mean, this is really quite remarkable.
Yeah.
well, and it's hard, like here, to estimate in the Native American Center. I mean, they can tell you how many people come in the door and how many are regular people that they've worked with and got tutoring and what have you. But then those people all impact
Right.
with other people. So it's and then I think we support a center at Colorado State, like the Native Center here, and one of their programs is to take several of the Native students, go out to places like Shiprock, and during their spring break, and do science lessons and activities in several of the elementary schools. So they end up, in a 1 week period, seeing 300-400 students, and families come also, and yet they're coming out of. It's just a project out of their Native American Center.
Right.
Well, I was going to say, when we're choosing projects, we're looking for the largest impact as
Right,
well.
right, absolutely. Well, let me ask you, and I probably shouldn't, but I will, and that is, have we done something similar to that? Having a project that goes into Shiprock or, Window Rock, or what are some of the other?
No, I don't think.
Fort Lewis has.
They have a lot of off-campus activities, which are more focused on taking Fort Lewis students, let's say, for example, down to the Ute Museum and seeing their oral history thing,
Right.
but that's more going down there for these people. I don't
Retention is very significant, very important, obviously, and so trying to get the students immersed in their culture and feeling comfortable on campus, so that they'll stay. So that's key. But no, not.
That's interesting.
like
Maybe
the
that might
other.
be something we want to
Yeah.
look into in the future, certainly.
Sure.
Well, this thing at CSU started with a connection with people in physics department that had a grant from the American Physical Society to do a thing called Little Shop of Physics. And they also go to the Pine Ridge Reservation at Christmas time. So it's, I think a lot of this part of the retention thing we've always felt is to get students involved in the doing of their academic work or in extracurricular things. So if they're in the business school, get involved in the, in the business, whatever it is.
Club.
Or here,
Yeah.
there's an ACES, American
Yep.
Indian Science and Engineering group. And so that, if they get involved in using their academic
Right.
things, that then kind of get closer to the university, to get more connections with people.
Which is really important.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
For
that's part of what
retention,
they're,
for
yeah,
sure.
exactly. Well, I'm not going to do any statistics because I'm sure they wouldn't be absolutely correct, but I know that the sciences are a very strong part of our Native American students' lives here. They've done very, very well, and we'll talk about the public health program in just a second that you funded. But let's go back a little bit because we're going to get about halfway through our show already. Believe it or not, it just zips by, doesn't it?
Right.
So if you're just tuning in, this is KDUR, and I'm Margie Dean Gray, the director of the foundation here at Fort Lewis. And lucky gal that I am, I have two wonderful people here who represent the John and Sophie Ottens Foundation. We have Henry Hooper and Jeanne Hooper. And they live in Ridgeway and come down here fairly often, really. I see you all pretty often coming down here. They have had I can't even tell you, substantial is not even anywhere near the right word for the impact that they have had on our Native students here at Fort Lewis. And we're going to learn a little bit more about that impact in just a couple minutes. So stay tuned. And after you left NAU, and decided you were going to retire and go up to Ridgeway. I'm not sure how you got up to Ridgeway, but it's a beautiful place to be getting up to.
We just drove through it a few times.
Oh, really?
Said it's a beautiful place to be.
Why not stop? Just stop here.
Well, we debated that or Durango, but we wanted to be closer into the mountains than you are here.
Yeah.
So
once you moved up there, was there an agreement between you and the Ottens that you were going to sort of continue on with their work, or? Because I know that you continue this year after year. You're supporting.
John asked me to be on the board and primarily to handle the program aspects. Because at NAU I had been involved a lot my background is in physics, so I had been involved in a lot of programs through engineering and the sciences that were doing things out on the reservation. So I had got to know a bunch of people. A lot of it had to do with the science ed emphasis I'm interested in. And so I knew people, and I knew what some of the issues were, and I knew places. And so that was going to be my role, to help do that. Well, unfortunately, soon after I retired, first Sophie passed away, and then 6 months later, John passed away. So Jeanne and I and Steve and Cynthia Aronoff in New York City were now the board, and so we decided we'll continue on, and they take care. Steve takes care of the financial things. We invested through a financial firm that takes care of that, but Steve does the taxes and the financial and legal things. He's forever cautioning me or us.
It's always good to have somebody there cautioning.
But John and Sophie never really designated how long the foundation should continue. And so it's basically been left up to us as long as we want to
Are
do
interested
this.
in doing it. So let's say you decided you wanted to really retire a second time next year. What would happen to the foundation?
Well, it's something we've struggled with, and one decision we made was that we would not try to get new board members that would carry on as we pass on or get tired of it or can't do it anymore. Because believe me, it actually is a lot of work giving away money responsibly. Well, you know from the donation side. So it does take time, and you need to check with people and get to know people, and so that you're confident that they can and will do what they said they're going to do. So we made a decision that we'll probably phase out by giving large grants for, like endowments, basically.
That's wonderful.
To, Fort Lewis will be one of the...
Oh, hey, I love that.
Yeah. and we've been going through a process in the last couple years of actually phasing out some projects that they're okay, but they're not the biggest impact. Plus, they're with an organization that is not as financially stable as a university is, for example. I mean, as people change in the university, you're still
Yeah,
in
the
a state
infrastructure's still
university.
there.
The structure is there. It's going to stay. Some of the groups that we work with don't have that kind of stability. It's based on whoever the person that's there.
At the time.
If that person disappears, probably the whole function would change. So we've been trying to get it down to a smaller number, and we actually have worked. Every year we go over a plan as to if something were to happen. This is how much money we would put here and there.
That's a big responsibility for you all, isn't it? I'm sure, it's a wonderful opportunity for you to be able to give to people who really need, the funding, and so you can really change their lives. On the other hand, as you said, it is difficult giving away money because you want to make sure it's used to its fullest. And as you said earlier, Jeannie, to have the broadest reach, for individuals. So it's, a little scary, probably.
Well, and we knew John and Sophie, and they were just most wonderful people. Everybody loved them. And so you feel this obligation. And in fact, I think Jeannie has noticed, some others have said that kind of John and I got a sort of father-son
relationship.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Well,
over the years.
trust was very important to John. And he connected with certain people. Henry happened to be one of those that he was very close to. So it was a natural.
I'm sure John felt so good, as he was getting up in years, knowing that you would be watching it and really taking it like a baby,
Oh, yeah.
It's okay.
It was
he
his
felt
baby.
it.
Yeah, it
So,
was.
yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to talk a little bit about it because I don't want to run out of time. A little bit about what you've done recently. I know you've been involved with Fort Lewis. It goes back, about 20 years at least, isn't it?
No, not quite.
Not quite that long?
No, I think it was about 99 or 98 or so when I realized that Hubert Williams was up here, and I knew Hubert when he was at NAU getting his master's degree.
Okay, that makes sense.
And he was the director at the Native American Center
Right.
here at the
And
time.
so since we were in the area, we, came down and visited with him, and I have some ideas about what kinds of things students needed, and
Sure.
And so we worked with Hubert, and John did come out and visit after Sophie died. He came out and did the train ride
Oh, good.
and met with Hubert, and so.
So he actually came on campus.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
great.
So
That's
he,
great.
yeah.
So he had a feel for what
Yes,
Fort Lewis
and
is
he
all
loved.
about.
He always loved meeting with the students. So that was good.
Yeah, absolutely. So they obviously this was very, very close to their hearts.
Oh yes.
Did they have children?
No.
No. So these
They were-
these people became their
They
children.
were
in a
very
sense.
close, even though they traveled and they had lots of money. They didn't collect stuff. I mean, they were not.
They were very
material-
simple,
very simple.
warm people.
That's nice. That really
Yeah.
is. So they
So-
could relate to a lot of people instead of feeling like the separation.
Oh,
Certainly
yeah,
in
yeah,
between
yeah.
the two. Well, as I mentioned, you all have been just amazing donors through the years, and I became involved with you when we were looking at the student union building
Right.
here that we're sitting in the middle of,
Right.
and talked to you about doing a donation on behalf of a new new Native American center. And I have to tell you that it was not the best timing, with the market being as crazy
Right.
as it was and dropping. But you all immediately, I remember Henry talking to you on the phone, and you said, Margie, financially this isn't a great time, and normally we'd have to kind of hesitate about doing this because you were donating $1 million, which is amazing. And you said, but you know what? This is really important to us, and we're going to go through with it. And I was just, I was elated for the students because you all were giving them that much more of an opportunity to grow as individuals and learn. And as you know, that where they were before was not great.
Yeah.
And so I want to thank you. I know I've thanked you many times for your generosity and your care for our Native students, but it really touched me when you said, maybe we really shouldn't be doing this right this minute, but we feel, really committed to your Native students, and that was wonderful.
Yeah.
So it was,
Well, we knew the state was cutting back funds
yeah.
to the universities and colleges, and this was a special place to us personally because it's a beautiful campus, and the devotion from administration as well as the faculty to the students is phenomenal here. So we just felt it was important to continue and to do the best we could for the Native American students.
Well, you did, and that certainly was the biggest gift that we received, for the student union, so that we were just absolutely, floored. And you've obviously been to the Native American Center at least 1,000 times, if not more than that. But what did you? Does it sort of match up with what you think? You and I, the three of us were sitting in my office, and I was asking you to sort of envision this new center, if you remember that, and sort of walking you through what the building area was going to look like. And so how do you think it turned out? What do you feel about it?
Well, what I notice is the warmth of the students. They're like brothers and sisters. I think there's a lot of camaraderie. I think the staff is exceptional as far as covering all the bases, whether it's personal issues, financial or emotional, family issues, tutoring, counseling in any way, being there to step up and catch problems before they become out of hand.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the things that we were really impressed as they designed it was food is obviously a major issue for all students, but for the Native people, many things are centered around
right.
Ceremonies and
stuff. And so, we knew they wanted a kitchen, not a microwave and a sink, and so getting together with the
El Centro
group, so that they have this major kitchen, with big commercial things,
it's amazing.
Just gorgeous.
Yeah.
And then the outside thing, which again is good, and they have the teepee they can put up, but then they went out and bought nice furniture. Not a lot. Lots of times in the university, the state, you end up with leftover surplus out of the state surplus, left over from somewhere. But they went out and got nice, comfortable things where kids can sit down and relax, and then nice computers, which are so central to, to all their work now. And so it was just really homey, warm, and has what people want there.
Including dealing with family issues, because I know they have things for kids, because a number of our students are married.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Which is a great, thinking ahead for these kids.
Well, and then to be just a few paces from the food, all the food service, it just makes it such a welcoming place and center. So we were very impressed with the whole idea. And the fact that students on this campus had committed to building the addition and had input into what was going in. It's just great. We were so pleased to be able to be involved.
Well, let me ask you, do you have a little story that you can tell us, either one of you, about something that happened with you, with the Native students within the Native American Center that just really kind of touched you? I know you've come in for a lot of different reasons. Or is it just a matter of just seeing them happy and seeing them being able to use the computers and all of those things?
I just think looking at their smiles, we've seen students grow.
Yeah, that's...
I think as far as maybe coming in quiet, bashful, not outgoing at all, and then mingling and, now being able to speak in public or...
And being a leader in whatever organization they were in. And so we've been very... In a number of the things that we've been involved in. Well, one of the ones was a kind of a science thing where kids came in from high schools from all over the region. And this was being run by, just the regular undergraduate students. It weren't all seniors. It was sophomores. It was just a mix. And they were taking charge. And organizing and keeping the thing moving, and it's just watching the growth, and then you do get impressed when sometimes we'll have an opportunity to sit down and talk to somebody who's fairly far along and knows where they're going, and learn how their lives have been changed. How when they came here, they weren't really sure, and they got focus and they got confidence, and now they're going to go out and conquer the world. I mean, they so when you hear the stories, we know they have, like all students, they have all kinds of problems, financial, family. So many of them have kids, many single parents, and some of the students are a little bit older. It's taken them a while to be able to make the commitment. And you see the struggles they go through, and then they come out very positive, and they're off to change the world.
Right, and they do. They do change.
Yeah.
I mean, we have numbers of our graduates who are in Washington, D.C., making tremendous differences with the current administration in state positions here in Colorado, all over the Four Corners. I mean, they really have excelled amazingly.
Yeah.
Just really great. Well, besides the student union building and helping, really being the people to create the Native American Center, you also have helped in a lot of other ways on campus. And I want to brag about you all, because for the people who don't know you all, it just shows again your amazing commitment to our Native students. But you were talking about the financial hardships that our Native students have, and they certainly do. And I think people say, oh, well, they get tuition free, so, and so everybody's assuming that's everything,
Yeah.
And I mean, I have to admit, when I first came to work here, that's what I thought,
Yeah.
until it made me, they said, no, it's just the tuition. It's not anything else. And so they have a lot of trials and tribulations, things that they have to deal with. And one of the things that you, again, have supported is helping our top academic students, Native American students, if they have those kind of problems financially, to be able to give them what they need, whether it's to go home to visit a sick grandmother or whatever, so that they can stay in. We talk about retention, so they will come back to Fort Lewis because they know that's where they belong. And unfortunately, so many of them have these family commitments. They get down there and they can't afford, and their parents are saying, oh, just stay down here and help us, and we lose them.
Yeah.
So that was another major program that you all have supported and are continuing to support, for the college. So that's
Well, I think
great.
it's so important to understand that under just the regular financial aid system the federal government has set up, a certain amount of the students are expected to contribute a certain amount, either from their families or themselves. Well, many of them work, and it's hard. I mean, it's hard to make other than spending money and some food. But many of these people, their families have no money to contribute to. So there are a lot of unmet needs, and you see people that we've known when we were at NAU of people that, for $200, $300 that they needed for this or that, they just went home.
Well, it could be a car repair.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. It could be
Something as simple
diapers. I
as
mean, it could be
that.
a lot of
Right.
different things.
But
yeah.
to lose a student over an issue like that is just a crime. So.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. So, see, you had that vision. When we came to you and asked for it, you could have said, oh, no, well, they, but you understood. You understood what they're going through and how difficult it is, especially the Navajo students, that live closer to Fort Lewis, but still far enough away that they have to make that effort to get down to see their families,
Yeah. Well, and we met this morning. We met a fellow that brought his son down from Wyoming, drove down, the long drive. Well, now the question is, at Christmas time or how's he going to get back? I mean, that's a long, and many of the kids don't have cars.
Right.
We never had cars when I went to college, but
Right.
but these there are a lot of issues that I think these students have, and we're just happy to be able to help support students, keep them in here, keep them going.
And get them through.
And get them through, right? To give them the hope that they will, once they get through here, they'll have that foundation for the next step in their life, certainly. Well, one more program I wanted to talk about, because it's sort of our newest one that you all have been involved in. That's our public health program. And, we asked you, we talked to you again. I know it sounds like we come back to you all the time, but we do, and we appreciate it, certainly. But we talked about our Native students going into public health opportunities, doing internships. But a lot of them need money for cars, gas, whatever, to get back and forth. And again, you all said, you know what, I don't want to delay somebody not being able to take an internship because they don't have the gas money to get there. And so we're starting to go through that. As you know, it's a new program, and I think we've have now two people who have, two Native students who have gone through it. It's a very popular program, and popular for our Native students. So again, you're making a difference, in these people's lives. I can't tell you how much you do. Every step of the way you're doing that. So, and I know that this is sort of near and dear to your heart because of the health aspect of it. And as I said, our Native students are really excelling in this field. It's been great.
Well, and they're so needed so much.
Right, exactly.
To be back into their communities.
Right. And a lot of them, that's what they're doing. They're coming here getting their degrees knowing that they're going to go back into their communities to be able to help.
And that's something they can do there. They're limited opportunities for them.
Right, exactly. So is there any other area of the Ottens Foundation that I probably don't know about that you support, out, whether it's here in the Colorado area or, in Timbuktu or something that Sophie and John said, let's support this?
Well, we support the Hopi Senior Center, which is in Moenkopi. And we also support the Scottsdale, if you can believe it, Scottsdale's Boys and Girls Club, because two of their centers are on Indian reservations that are just across the street from this end of Scottsdale. So there we're supporting a program after school and summer in nutrition and healthy nutrition and exercise. And in fact, this program that was developed in Virginia, actually, for Native Americans, all the other Scottsdale centers are using. They changed years ago. Because of this, they changed the snacks. No soda machine. They were doing
smart,
fruit
the healthy.
And things. So it grew out of this smaller center with the Native Americans to coming back to influence the whole thing. Oh, and one of the other interesting ones is at the Institute for American Indian Arts in Santa Fe, when it went from a 2-year school, just, 3-4 years ago, to being a 4-year school. And they had just concentrated on the arts. So they had to expand, and they were struggling with what do we do in sciences and particularly biology and things. They decided to focus more on wellness and fitness and diabetes prevention and drug and alcohol. And so we've been supporting that part of their academic curriculum, which has been well accepted by them. So we've involved, kind of in a whole. Well, and then we also support the American Indian Center in Albuquerque, which is a home for a lot of homeless and people that live right in the city, and also a support group in Denver, which is a part of the Coalition for Homeless, and a lot of the homeless were Native Americans, so they set up a special program talking circle kind of a program to bring in the Native Americans and get them involved in their health services and make sure they find homes for them. And so it's a very broad spectrum of things that we've gotten into. And
well, as I mentioned in the very beginning, you all have touched so many lives. I mean, really, and just sitting here and thinking about all of, not only here, but all these other places that you're involved in, and they're spreading the word, touching. It's just really been wonderful. Well, unfortunately, it is time. It is time. I know it just goes by so fast. I always have so many things I want to find out about my guests, but I want to thank you so much, not only for coming here today to be with us and hearing your story and how you got involved, and it became your life as well as John and Sophie Ottens. And again, just for what you've done for Fort Lewis College. I know the other organizations you work for are just as appreciative as we are, but since I'm the one that has the radio show, I'm the one that's going to thank you on behalf of Fort Lewis College. So thanks again for everything you do, and just know that depending on when you decide you want to retire, that you have just made a tremendous life change in thousands, and I'm saying thousands of people.
Well,
Old and young.
It changes our lives as well in a very positive way.
Well,
So thank you.
Well, thank
Thank you.
And I hope you all will tune in next week again for Notes and Notable. And I will be on duty again, and we'll have an equally wonderful show for you. So come on board. So thanks for being here. Bye-bye.